Welcome to episode 17 of Education, a clusterfuck in need of repair. This episode is entitled Off Script, Skin in the Game. Before we start, I'd like to emphasize that all ideas presented in this podcast are my own and do not reflect the thoughts, opinions, or positions of my employer, Emerson College, its programs, or its representatives. As soon as this heating pad eases the pain in my back and the ibuprofen kicks in, it's over for you bitches. But you know who really cares? You know who has the most skin in the game? Kids. Kids care. Welcome to episode 17 of Education, a clusterfuck in need of repair. This episode is entitled Off Script, Skin in the Game. It's called Off Script because usually I work with a script. I write out what I'm going to say. As you probably have realized by now, I'm a big topic associating speaker and I can go far afield, but I'm taking the big risk today and I'm speaking extemporaneously with just a few notes. So fingers crossed, we'll see how it goes. I was talking to a friend of mine who has young kids, and one of them is attending a charter school that works from a Waldorf philosophy. And he was talking about how well he feels the school is meeting the needs of his son. And I was really struck by the fact that parents have a lot to worry about when they choose a school for their child. Do you choose a regular public school? Do you choose a charter school? Do you choose an alternative philosophy? And he was lucky because the philosophy he chose really suited his son. And it made me think about the fact that in the world of education, parents have skin in the game. The skin is the happiness of their child, their sense that they've sent their child to a place that will meet his needs, that will be kind to him, that will help him develop emotionally and intellectually. I like the phrase skin in the game. I sometimes use I don't have a dog in that fight, but I actually think it's a weaker phrase because a dog, you could abandon your dog, you heartless bastard, or you can sell your dog, but your skin is your skin. It's attached. That's commitment. So having kids in schools is an emotional experience for parents. They have skin in the game. The parents are so scared that they'll make the wrong choice. And sometimes the kids will tell them in time and sometimes they won't. But it's also an emotional experience for the teachers who know when what they're doing is the right thing for kids. That they're being responsive to the needs of the kids. That they're promoting the learning of the kids, they're optimizing the learning time of the kids, and are maintaining the emotional health of the kids. And their pain, when they're in a system or a situation which they're not allowed to do that, is a very negative emotional state. And one of the reasons I think this podcast has spoken to teachers is because so many teachers find themselves in that negative emotional state right now, caught between the needs of the administration, the needs of the kids, the desires of the parents, the needs of the kids, what they know to be good teaching and learning, what they're being asked to do. Teachers have a lot of skin in the game, more even than parents, because that's what they do 5 days a week, 7 hours a day, plus grading time and all the other outside stuff you do. And that's part of their sense of self and how they do it, how they're allowed to do it, what they're allowed to do, what they're no longer allowed to do, all becomes part of that sense of self that they then have to live with. They have skin in the game. One of the things I think that draws people to this podcast, particularly teachers, is their need to feel like someone still has the energy to fight, or that cares enough about the experiences of teachers and students to even consider fighting for them. People are angry. They have skin in the game. But you know who really cares? You know who has the most skin in the game? Kids. Kids care. Kids have skin in the game. I used to do a lot of in-class dramas, enrolled dramas in classroom settings. And I would present them with some unfair situation, whether it was two nurses who were being mean to the patients. They really did not like that at all. Or a prison warden who was being unfair to the prisoners, or on and on. And kids have a really profound sense of justice and equity. And they would fight me tooth and nail. One piece that I did a lot was about this person who was, oppressing homeless people by providing them with work on their commune. They had an organic grape farm, and they would hire people off the side of the road and take them back to the grape farm and then basically imprison them there by making them acquire debt in the form of bug repellent, shoes, that kind of stuff. And they just would never let them go. And little by little, the good intentions of this person became slavery. They built a 20-foot barbed wire fence around the barn where the homeless families now lived. And they would go down and recruit homeless people at the local food shelters. And this woman is talking to a bunch of other commune owners. That's who the kids were enrolled as. And they had all chosen the philosophy of their communes: against war, pro-kindness, pro the environment, etc. And she was saying, look, this works so well, I think we should all do it. I'm helping these people. I'm doing good. And it's so easy. All you have to do is go down to the food pantries and the homeless shelters just after they've closed for the night, so that anybody who's not going to have a place to stay or food to eat will be waiting outside, milling around, trying to figure out what to do. And so as not to offend them by going up and asking them, are you homeless? Because that would be so offensive, they take a loaf of bread, and she talks about slicing the loaf of bread in front of a fan to bring the homeless people over to the van so she can say, would you be willing to work for food? I was doing this once. It was 3 days before the end of school. It was in a Boston public school. I was working with an 8th grade. I had never met them before. And their class met on the landing of a stairwell. It was so hot. It was like teaching in an easy bake oven. And there was this kid at the back of the room named Donald. Donald was not engaged. He voted against doing it, but most of the class wanted to do it, so we did it. And Donald was just sitting there with his head back, I'm sure praying for death in the heat. And he was just sitting there until I said the thing about slicing the bread in front of the fan. And his eyes opened, and he sat bolt upright, and he slammed his hand down on the desk, and he goes, so what you're telling me is that you lure these people over to your van like dogs? I said, no. Oh, no, not at all. I'm just trying to respect. He says, no. You're taking advantage of their hunger to lure them to your farm. And all of a sudden he was awake, and he became a leader of the resistance. And he said, this is just like slavery. You're enslaving these people. They can't leave. You're holding on to their kids when they want to. We're going to call the police. And, they decided not to do it themselves. And at the end of it, the kids were talking about why they turned on this otherwise seemingly lovely woman. She was nothing mean about her. She was like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. She's, no, it's not like that. We're just trying to help people. We're helping people. And they knew that what I was doing wasn't right. And just as people in the world, they felt like they had skin in the game to tell the truth, to make me stop, to confront what I was doing, and to effectively, use their group action to prevent me from continuing to do this. And that's what I've encountered again and again working with kids. They care. They have skin in the game of being a good human being. With adults, it's more complicated because we understand how complex the world is, and it's easy to step back from that when you're balancing two possible goods. Well, I need to keep my job, but I also think this is wrong, and how do I balance those things? For me, I have an overdeveloped equity gene. I always have. When I was 4, I was driving in the car with a friend of my mother's, lecturing her on why it was wrong that people needed to live in ghettos, having seen a Life magazine article with pictures of ghetto life. And she was just like, I'm sure she wished I would just shut up. But she was like, did you hear this from your mother? I was so offended. These are my ideas. I've always been this way. But I really do feel like, what about the game of what's right? Or the speaking the truth game? Theoretically, we all have skin in those games. A lot of skin. Why don't we always act like it? I honestly do not know. Despair? There's a lot to despair about right now. Anger that becomes depression? Maybe. Because nobody likes you when you tell the truth too much? That's true. My youngest son is quite smart. And when he was 7, he came to me and he said, you know, Mom, people act like it's really good that you're smart, but it's not. And I was like, all right, you have my attention. Why? He said, because if you're good at softball or soccer, you can talk about that and people don't mind. But if you're smart, they don't want you to talk about that and they don't want to know about it. And I'm looking at his little 7-year-old face and I'm thinking, but I'm a big fan of the truth. And I said, yes, that's true. It's true because it scares them. And we talked about it. I didn't have some tidy little answer for it, but that's telling the truth is like that. It's not always fun. It's not always nice. It's often not a feel-good moment, whether it's with your 7-year-old or whether it's with the parent of a kid who's not doing well in school or whether it's to a society that is so fractured that you don't know who is going to be able to hear you and who isn't. I have a fridge magnet right now that says, I'm sorry for all the things I said when I was being honest with you. I have frequently gotten in trouble for telling the truth. I used to be such a liar. As a child, I was a really gifted and prodigious liar. And then when I was in my 30s, I met this really decent guy. And so who's videotaping this session. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to start telling the truth. And I realized it's much more relaxing. You don't have to remember what you said. And yeah, there are negative consequences, but they're sort of immediate, right? Where the lying thing is tiresome. So now I'm a born-again truth teller. I was just in a situation where a really wrong thing was happening again and again and again. And lots of people acknowledged that it was the wrong thing, including me, who would not shut up about it. But no one did anything to stop it. It was like, cover your eyes, cover your ears, cover your mouth, hope it works out. I was despairing, but fate intervened and it finally worked itself out. So yay me. But we can't always wait for fate, right? Fate is often late or absent. 6 million people marched on No King's Day. This seems like a detour, but it's not. They marched. There was no immediate positive outcome. There was a huge potential negative outcome. People were really scared about it, but they did it anyway. I just heard today about tow truck drivers in LA who are following around the unmarked ICE vehicles. And when the ICE vehicles park illegally, they tow the truck. And then the ICE guys have to go pick it up at the tow lot. And it's, passive resistance. what's happening right now in education matters to millions of teachers and kids. And we need to stand up for that. We need to tell the truth. We need to push for change. Lots of us want to, so we need to try to find a way. I don't have a way, but I'm going to do some thinking about it over the summer when I have time. I learned through doing this podcast that we find courage in like-minded others. So next year, I'm going to aim to hold 4 salons. I'm going to try to hold one of them live, where teachers get together and remind each other of the commitment, the nobility, and the spirit of this thing we do. Like-minded others getting together, people who have skin in the game. Other than that, however, I don't quite know why people listen. I mean, who are my constituents? People who want to remind themselves of what good teaching is? I hope so. People who feel outrage at the clusterfuck and are tired of whispering it at the back table at faculty meetings? I think so. People who enjoy the word fuck? It's wrong, but it's good, clean fun. Sure. People who recognize that we all have skin in this game? Fingers crossed. Like all self-respecting teachers, I'm taking a break for the summer. Not from work. Who can afford that? But from this podcast. I'm writing a book. I'm thinking about who I can talk to next year on this podcast, what I want to say, what you want and need to hear. I need some time to digest what's happened this year and consider where I want to go next year. But I'll be back in the middle of September with more ideas, more strategies for battling the clusterfuck, more respect for the valiant adventure that is teaching. To quote one final refrigerator magnet, as soon as this heating pad eases the pain in my back and the ibuprofen kicks in, it's over for you bitches. Because I've got skin in this game. So thanks for listening. If you want to give feedback on whether off script or on is better, let me know, please. You can DM me at my Instagram account, educationclusterf_CK, or email it to me at educationclusterfck@gmail.com. I'd appreciate it. Until September, have a wonderful summer. I plan to.
J like the letter, I'm making several waves. I know the mission is same. I made a splash, now all of my passes last like running a race with Usain. I keep it coming like this a buffet. And if I'm stumbling, I'm in the grave. Never gon' fumble it. I get the bag and I run with it, gunning it, gunning it, gunning it, gunning it.